But yeah, so if you go to our TikTok, you'll see the thread of a few videos and plenty of comments about all the complaints people had. And a lot of people were putting the blame on the builders, which I found very amusing. One thing I cannot stand is people who put blame on other people rather than taking responsibility for themselves. And in many of these cases, had these people have actually taken the initiative to either measure their vehicle before they bought it or measure their parking spaces before they bought the house, they would have realized whether or not the house could suit their parking needs, which is easy to avoid.
All right. Hello. Welcome to episode 143 of KT Confidential, the real estate podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ariel. He's Adrian. Today, we're talking about something that got a little heated. Again, with your friggin' AirPods.
No, it's working. I just all of a sudden I heard like this really electronic-y type of sound, and it flipped between. These AirPods are a pain in the ass. I made a phone call this morning on my phone, and I was connected to my AirPods, and then 10 seconds into my phone call, while I'm chatting with the person, my MacBook picks up, and I'm like, "Come on, Apple, get your shit together."
The AirPod Pro 3s are coming out next month, so maybe it's time to upgrade. Anyways, today we are talking about a heated topic from one of our TikTok posts. If you don't already follow us on TikTok, we're posting a little bit of different stuff on there. Some great content. Would love you guys to follow us and chime in. And
what thing I love about TikTok, talking about chiming in, is that's a lot of what that community is. People do chime in. People comment a lot more than other platforms, and it really gets interesting conversations going.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, totally off topic, but I think if you are in business, I'll say in business, not necessarily just a realtor, if you're selling shoes or you're a dentist or whatever, you kind of have to be everywhere now, right? Like if you think about online marketing back in 2010, we'll say roughly 10 years ago, it was all about Facebook. You had to be on Facebook, a little bit of YouTube. You still had to be dominant in SEO searches on Google and things like that, but very basic stuff, very manageable stuff if you're hustling. Now, you've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got the stories. Like there's Instagram, that's fine. You can be on the Instagram feed.
You got stories.
Now you've got Instagram stories. You've got Reels.
It's like
you've got IGTV.
Yeah, you can repurpose stuff, but you also need some, unique content for each platform too, because you have different demographics. It's a lot of work.
And LinkedIn, there's all these areas as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that you kind of have to be. And I think that's why we do so well with our marketing, with our properties. Why people contact us is because they see this. And they know that we're kind of everywhere. And speaking of which, we're everywhere in terms of listening to your podcast. So if you're listening, you can listen on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, wherever. Make sure that not only you're commenting and giving us suggestions for other topics, but that you like and subscribe. And if you're watching, because you can watch this podcast by going to ktconfidential.ca. It'll take you right to the YouTube playlist for all of our KT Confidential episodes. So all other 142 episodes, you can watch them back if you like to see these beautiful faces and put us up on your TV. I do have clients, I think I've told you that before, they actually throw it up on their Apple TV at night and watch us together.
Well, then we need to improve our cameras because these aren't pushing out the quality for big screens. We need to get those. I was looking at them recently, the little clip-on cameras.
I told you that many, many months ago, and you told me, this is good enough. Anyways, today's topic is parking. And
so to elaborate on that,
I laugh at a lot of the comments that you got on TikTok from your post about I don't know how that started. Oh, you commented on somebody else's post.
I stitched a video. So for those of you not familiar with TikTok, stitching is where you take a post that someone else has made. It basically previews 15 seconds of that clip. You can select the area of 15 seconds that you want in the timeline, and then you record your video afterwards. So in this case, there was a guy in Brampton who has, I mean, I couldn't see the full house, but from what I could see, it looked like what we refer to as a rear lane townhome. So they're 3-story townhomes, and they have a double car garage in the backyard, or in the back of the house rather. And that's their parking, is the double car garage. Now, depending on where you buy, some of these will also have a small little paved pad just outside of the garage, which some people can use for parking if it's big enough. His complaint was that he had pulled his big SUV, looked like a Jeep Cherokee or some big, full size SUV out, and it was hanging over the end of the driveway, and he got a ticket. So he was going on and on complaining about these damn tickets and how it wasn't fair. And I found it amusing because he has a double car garage, and that's what that is for. So what I wanted to chat about was the importance of knowing what you're buying as a buyer.
I have a double car garage, and right now neither of my cars can get in there.
Well, he has the same parking as you, basically, in a different configuration. Like he could, if he had a smaller car, he could get 4 cars there.
Yeah, I couldn't make out exactly what the driveway was.
It was a little bit too short for what he needed for his vehicle.
Yeah. If your car's hanging over the sidewalk, don't complain. Like, one of my pet peeves is when I'm walking, especially with the kids, and you see this all the time with pickup trucks.
Well, they got that damn trailer hitch.
They got the trailer hitch that sticks out, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to take off your knee.
Yeah.
But even the bed of the truck is overhanging into the sidewalk, and nothing pisses me off more than in the winter when that happens, and all of a sudden you're walking, or your dog has to walk in the snowbank, or your kids have to go around, and it's kind of rude.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that we can talk about with parking, and there's a couple of tips that I've got that when you are buying a home to kind of keep in mind. The first thing you got to keep in mind is your garage. What is going to be your intended use for the garage? Because some people, well, like yourself, you're not parking in your garage right now. You have no room. And you've got a full car, small car. It's not technically a 2 full car. It is a double car garage, but
I could put them both if I really wanted to. I could put both in there. I used to, and my other car was similar size to the one I have now. It was tight.
But if you had 2 vans, you wouldn't be able to.
That would be very tight.
Very
I don't think I could do that.
My point is, you have to know what your intended use of the garage is going to be, and are your vehicles going to fit? How are they going to fit? And do you have any intentions of changing your vehicles? As an example, you've talked about buying a pickup truck.
Mm-hmm.
Will a pickup truck fit in your garage?
No, but I wouldn't park it in my garage. So one of my considerations will be, when I find the one that I would seriously consider, is measuring it and seeing how it fits in my driveway, because there are some that are very tight fit. My dad has a big truck. He parks in the driveway occasionally, and I know that he gets fairly close to the sidewalk. I don't think it'll be a problem, but it's definitely something that I would take into consideration. And, the guy that was on that TikTok video, if I'm sure I don't know if he bought the car before he got the house or after he got the house, but nevertheless, before one of the purchases, he should have measured to make sure it was a good option for him.
Well, and find out what the bylaws are of that municipality.
Yes.
And that's a big mistake of a lot of purchasers. So that's one of my recommendations, is looking into, wherever you're buying, what is considered a ticket. because if you're parking on the street, as an example, right? Because if you have a single car garage home and a single car driveway and you've got two vehicles in the household, there's a good chance at some point during the week, one of those vehicles is going to end up on the side of the road because you don't want to do the shuffle of the cars each and every time. So, husband or whatever, one of the spouses goes and parks on the driveway or on the roadside and puts it there at 1:00 in the afternoon and says, oh, I'll just move it back in after dinner or before bed, and goes out there and finds a parking ticket. Well, maybe you could only park on the side of the road for 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever. A lot of intricacies into parking and bylaws of where you can and cannot park and whatnot. As an example, there are certain municipalities that if your home is within a certain distance from an intersection, that even though, I'll give you an example. Let's say
I think
there's
Milton is 50 feet, I think.
Meters.
50 meters, sorry. That's a lot.
Let's say your home that's 4 houses, 5 houses. I'm pretty sure it's 50 meters. Now you got me second guessing.
No, I think you're probably right because the other measurements that I know of are done in meters.
So using Milton as an example with this 50 meters, if your home is on a corner, let's say you got the corner lot and there's no sidewalk and you got a double car garage, that means theoretically you could probably park 4 vehicles. You could fit 4 Corollas in your driveway. And I'm using this as an example because I'm thinking of a home in our neighborhood that it drives me nuts when they do this, but I haven't complained and I won't. Okay, I'll use it as an example. So at the end of our street, there's a stop sign and there's a busy road, Lederman Drive. And when you look to your right, you can see everything pretty well. But when you look to your left, any cars coming in your direction can be obstructed if, in the event, the first 2 or 3 homes have decided to park towards the end of their driveway.
Yes.
So when you're trying to see if it's clear that you can make a left-hand turn,
you got to get halfway into the lane.
You got to get into the road to be able to see past those cars. And it's unsafe. It's unsafe. And technically, they cannot park there. So can you imagine?
Well, so the one thing I'm not sure about with that though is, so if you look at, like I've read through the bylaws and it specifies in Milton again, being specific, that I can't find anything that says you have to stay a certain distance from the end, except for when it refers to the boulevard. But the boulevard is only the part on the opposite side of the sidewalk. So I don't see anything that says if you don't have a sidewalk, you still have to park X amount of meters away from the road. Do you know what I mean?
It's very vague in saying that if it's an obstruction.
Oh, I see.
So, and it's pretty well on a complaint basis. Like there's nobody driving around. Well,
most of these are because you can't park on boulevards, basically, period, anywhere because none of them accommodate the rules. I read it the other day. You have to be 3 meters off of the road if you're parking on the boulevard. There are no boulevards in anywhere in the last 10 years, basically, in a house built in Milton where you'd got enough room to be 3 meters away from the curb.
3 meters away puts you in my bathroom.
Exactly. But there's tons of people parking on the boulevard. So, not many people will get in trouble until somebody complains.
Yeah.
The other thing is, one person was saying they have a big problem with parking because of basement apartments, illegal basement apartments. So that's interesting because one of the rules for basement apartments to be legal is they have to have 3 legal parking spaces in order to accommodate that extra dwelling and additional person. So when people start throwing up all these illegal basement apartments, there's nowhere to park.
Well, and then what you see, and you have to be extremely cognizant and aware, especially if you're buying a home that has this, if there is an extension of some kind to the driveway, whether it's by asphalt or by creative hardscaping, like, you know, patio stone kind of thing, um, is it permitted? Is it allowed?
Right.
Because a lot of the ones that I see, they use up all the grass, and most of the time it's not even nice, right? Like they're getting this big concrete slab thrown in there so they can have an additional parking space, but meanwhile it doesn't line up with the requirements. So
Well, because you
that's
can only have
illegal.
a certain percentage, I believe, of the front yard hardscaped.
Correct. Correct. Now, some people will get away with being creative on it. Um, I don't know, somebody randomly at my door. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Keep talking about
That's
parking.
yeah. It's not very often when you're at the cottage you get someone knocking on the door. Maybe it's a vacuum sales, door-to-door salesman. That's too funny. But yeah, so if you go to our TikTok, you'll see the thread of a few videos and plenty of comments about all the complaints people had. And a lot of people were putting the blame on the builders, which I found very amusing. One thing I cannot stand is people who put blame on other people rather than taking responsibility for themselves. And in many of these cases, had these people have actually taken the initiative to either measure their vehicle before they bought it or measure their parking spaces before they bought the house, they would have realized whether or not the house could suit their parking needs, which is easy to avoid. Did you buy a vacuum?
When was the last time somebody went selling vacuums door to door? You're aging yourself, my friend.
I know.
No, I get the property sprayed on a regular basis for mosquitoes and ticks.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to come on Friday, but it was raining on Friday, so they rescheduled to today. And normally they just come and spray, but I guess because he saw my car up at the driveway, from the door to ask if it's okay if he sprayed.
Very nice of them.
Really good service, by the way. It's called Mosquito Buzz.
I'd be concerned that it's toxic or something.
So the one that we get is a non-toxic application,
Yeah.
and the base of it is actually garlic and garlic oil.
Yeah.
Um, Very very faint smell, but it's not toxic. They spray it without masks. It's a fogging machine. They go around all the dense areas or anywhere that could be breeding mosquitoes or ticks, and they spray. They do 2 or 3 tick applications through the summer, and then monthly for the mosquitoes. I haven't had a mosquito bite in a long time. It
Really?
doesn't, yeah, yeah. It doesn't do
Wow.
anything against black flies, horse flies, um, but mosquitoes, it does a great job. So it's a good investment if you own a rural property. Even I was thinking of getting it at home because we have the cedars and more dense backyard than most now.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's a lot of opportunities, and the kids' pool is out there. So when you have still water, more opportunity for mosquitoes to breed. So I thought of even getting it sprayed at home. But if you own a rural property of any kind, it's a pretty good investment if you don't like getting bug bites.
Well,
And ticks are bad this year. So
Tessa gets bad reactions to mosquito bites, so she always sometimes blisters up depending on what the bite is actually.
oh,
But
really?
with mosquitoes, she usually just swells up quite a bit.
Is that it for the parking chat?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the premise of it is just I was just saying when you left that the majority of people on there were blaming builders for not building large enough parking spaces, which drives me mad when people don't take responsibility for their mistakes, because it's the people that need to do their due diligence. And on that note, it's the real estate agents helping them because, as real estate agents ourselves, if parking, I mean, parking is always a topic of discussion when we're helping people purchase homes. But, if we determine that it is, really important to them, and we'll find out what their needs are, it's always something that we address up front.
Well, here's a message to anybody renting a home as well, or more specifically, renting a condo, an apartment, because we see this all the time. We have a condo for rent and it's got one parking space, but the tenants have two cars. And
Yeah.
they see all this visitor parking or whatever, all these open spaces that aren't tagged with a number. And they just think they're magically going to slip that other car in and everything's going to be fine. Um,
And it may be for a month or two, or maybe a year or
yeah,
two. But at
yeah.
some point, when it
Yeah,
becomes an issue,
don't be surprised if you come down and your car is gone. It wasn't stolen. It's at the pound because
yeah.
the condo management company got a complaint or they caught on to you.
Well, and to that point too,
And
you can't. There's certain types of vehicles that can't be parked in certain areas. Whether we're talking freehold homes, like I have a. Do you remember Mike, the tint guy from the dealership back in the day?
yes.
So he has a Sprinter, or had a Sprinter. Last time I chatted with him, he had a Sprinter, and it was a tall version of the Sprinter, and it exceeded the allowable height of a vehicle in a residential driveway. And his neighbors complained. And I don't know what came of it, but you can't just park whatever you want in your driveway, so you make sure you know what you're getting into. And when it comes to condos, there's even more requirements. Like, you can't have certain types of commercial vehicles. You can't have a motorcycle and a car in the parking spot. Like, there are rules around parking wherever you are, condo or freehold. And before you buy a vehicle or a house, make sure that it works with your parking arrangements.
Well, and one thing that we don't talk about often enough is the legalities and that due diligence ahead of time, right? Like, you're just assuming a lot, and that's what happens. A lot of realtors, they assume that it's okay, or they assume there's more parking available, or they assume that, well, you gotta be clear and make sure that it, like to your point, that it's all above water. Otherwise you end
Yeah.
up you end up
Well, there
in.
was one person that commented that kind of fits into that, where they commented and they were laughing, saying, "Ha ha ha! You're a real estate agent. You wouldn't, uh, 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 like, basically cancel or ruin a deal over some, parking." So you basically saying you wouldn't advise a client not to buy a house because the parking wasn't suitable, implying that the real estate agent, or maybe generalizing, saying real estate agents in general have selfish intentions of putting a deal together to get paid. But there's been many cases where, I mean, it's quite the opposite for us anyways. I can't speak for everybody, but I assume most agents are the same, and making sure that, if they show a house and it doesn't suit a certain need that they know their client has, of course they're going to bring it to their attention. It doesn't mean that their client won't make a concession and forego that feature, or say, okay, well, I can make do with this, because people often buy things that they didn't originally set out to. But that's always something we discuss. Parking or anything. Like, some people may want a 4-bedroom, they end up buying a 3-bedroom. They make that decision. They are aware of it. We bring it to their attention, and they make a decision.
Well, thanks for chatting about parking today. It wasn't
I
the
know you didn't
most,
want to. You said it was boring.
oh, it was kind of boring. I don't know. If somebody has listened to this up until now and found this exhilarating, please let me know. Or if you have any comments, ideas, or questions, leave it in the comments.
Well, Jen in our office will have something to say, because Jen often gets, I don't know if she still is, but she used to get parking.
Don't blame that realtor.
She used to get park. Well, they changed their vehicles during that time. They bought a big pickup truck and now have an SUV. So between the two, the parking is tight. And I don't think they use their garage.
They set up their garage as kind of not a living room, but a living space. Like, they sit in there, they watch TV, and they chill out there because
So
grandma
that's the price
lives
they
with them.
pay.
And, yeah.
She complains about parking tickets all the time. So Jen, start parking in your garage.
Yeah. Well, and now her husband has a pickup truck, so that makes it
And a motorcycle. I think time for a new house.
I've been saying that for the last couple of years, and I think her husband's on board with it too. But they got it pretty. She likes living there because of convenience. It's close to everything. It's in a great location, and it's just a couple minutes from the office. And they bought it in 2012, I believe. I can't remember when we worked together on that. I think it was 9 years ago or so. So obviously, compared to today's prices, they did quite well. And I mean, everybody has different intentions. It's a nice semi-detached house. So I don't think they are too much in a rush to move. But for me, well, you think about for me, when I bought my house, I was single.
Yeah.
I didn't need. Well, technically, I have 4-car parking. And mine is a whole other. So for those
Is that
of you
one you have
listening and
legal
watching,
though?
Sure.
Okay.
Legal in what sense?
Well, were you allowed to hardscape that portion of your? I mean, you basically have no lawn anymore.
I do, and
Okay.
it's a walkway. Well, because if you see how I park,
yes,
I park sideways. And when I park sideways, really, I am not much more than the width of the garage. So, I mean, if there was no sidewalk, I could fit 3 cars in my driveway without having to park sideways.
Yeah.
But talk about doing due diligence. When you buy a brand new home, at that time when we had to sign on the agreements of purchase, we did not know what side of the street the sidewalk was going on. And because my property or my floor plan has the staggered garage, that means and it's a full double car garage, 2 separate garage doors, and one of them is pushed further than the other. And that helps create a great floor plan inside the home, opens up a nice flow inside the house. But unfortunately, it also means if you got the sidewalk that you got screwed with only having a 1-car parking lot or
Yeah.
1-car driveway. And for a 2,600 square foot double car garage home, a 1-car driveway isn't exactly, a selling feature. But
Yeah. And for those people that are looking at new construction, the builder won't always tell you which side the sidewalk will be on, but the town will usually have that information already.
Maybe not, depending on what stage they're being sold.
Correct. But it's worth checking.
A lot of developments are being sold before the town has even approved anything.
Yeah.
If you look at Connect condo at the corner of 25 and Dairy, it's going sideways. They're refunding deposits and there's a big hoopla over it because they couldn't get the proper. I don't know if it was proper zoning or.
I saw them in there digging the other day.
Are they? I don't know what they're digging, but I don't know.
I'm not sure what's happening.
Topics aside, how's life, man?
Life is good. Busy.
Yeah.
Just got back from my little trip up north. Looking forward to my next one, the end of, or about halfway through the 20th of August, heading up again. Weather was decent.
You're going up for another trip?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, 20th to the 27th.
Oh, another week. That's nice.
Yeah. What, I'm not allowed to have a couple weeks of vacation? Jeez. Actually, last time I went up earlier than expected, which was nice.
No,
Spent a couple days up there working, which is hard to do in a small place with kids.
You don't own it, and you're gifted this time allotment. I was just surprised that you're able to take 2 weeks in August.
Yeah, well, they're very accommodating. I guess they like us And we help out around there a lot. I bought a new pump a couple years ago. I've had the septic pumped out a couple times. I paid for the wood for their big wood shed they built. I just built a new ramp into their shed, which cost, I mean, the materials were a couple $100, and then I built it, which took half a day.
Well, you spend a couple of weeks there every year pretty well, right?
Yeah.
If you were to rent a cottage like that, it would probably be in the vicinity of $2,000 for the week.
Yeah, maybe.
So you're saving yourself $4,000. So the
Yeah,
fact that you spent $230 on getting a half a quart of wood delivered.
Well, that's why I don't mind. I'm happy to do it. And every time I go up, I message them. I'm like, what can I do this time? There's always little projects to work on.
So all right, I'll get a little personal here. And if you don't want to answer it, it's okay. Can you hear this guy blowing this shit?
No, I can't hear anything.
I don't know if you can pick it up, but yeah, he's going around. Young kid, seems nice. First time doing it here at the property, though.
Yeah.
You, a couple of months ago, you started your mission of looking for a cottage to purchase. You know where I'm going with this?
Well, no, not necessarily, but ask away.
So now that you spent a week at your family's cottage, are you more inclined to invest in a cottage? Or I'm not going to say invest, because that's where you get your
I mean,
up,
there's
but
a degree of it. So is that the question, whether or not I'm still inclined or more inclined to do it?
Yeah. How are you feeling about buying a cottage right now?
I'm not particularly interested in it. I mean, the thought of having one is nice, but what I've found is a couple things. When I'm up there, I find it hard to work. I mean, it doesn't help that there's really no space for me to go to work. I mean, the kids might be outside, but I don't want to. When I'm there, I like to. That's where I disconnect. I unwind. I want to spend time with the kids. I want to go swimming, sunbathe, drink, whatever. It's hard for me to get into my work mentality when I'm there. So, first of all, if I buy one, the reason to buy one is to spend more time there versus the 2 weeks that I typically am allowed to get at the cottage I go to. So, I'm still in a mindset right now in the business that I want to put in a lot of time and hours and build the company, not spend excessive amounts of time at the cottage, because I can't personally get that disconnect, and I'm not as productive up there as I am here.
But you are also saying that based on your family being all together during all those times, where when you own it.
Well, if I owned it, Alicia would be there all summer. Really?
I beg to differ, because, well, I mean, that's obviously her prerogative, and you come to.
Wait, you know my wife better than me? What are you not telling me here?
Probably because I don't think you can be at the cottage, quote unquote, all summer. You can go for a week, 2 weeks, then you get antsy. You want to come home. The kids want their bed, their toys. They want to go. Trust me, I've figured that out in the last 4 years. Because you can come and go at any time, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I think they're different in that perspective, because they just. I mean, aside from, I don't know. We'll see.
You try and take it a little bit easier now on weekends, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not saying you don't work on weekends, but you try to take some time off finally, right? After 10 years of working 7 days a week, 70 hours a week, you finally taking a little bit of time, as am I. But let's just say your family is up there for the summer. Pretty nice for them to be up there for the summer, right? That's number one. Number two, why wouldn't you go on a Friday afternoon and come home on a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon? And then while you're there, whatever little work that you would have is still manageable. And then the times like right now, my family's back at home. They were here for a few days. And I said, well, the weather is finally going to be nice for a couple of days. I got a lot of work, but I can work from here. So, and like I think we were talking about the other week, sometimes a little break from each other as a couple or a break from the kids to do work is nice. Like last night, I opened a bottle of wine and had a glass at the dock with my laptop, and I was working on some new marketing stuff for the team. So at home, I probably wouldn't have. I don't know. I just find your reason kind of.
Well, so that's part of it. The other, and I'm running a little short on time here, but the other part of it is, which I've not acted on. So that's, I mean, to a degree, it hasn't come to fruition. So I can't really use that. So I need to act on it. But that part is, as much as, it would be probably safe to assume the property would appreciate. So in the long run, it would generate income of some sort or be an asset. It also costs you monthly, and there's a cost of not putting that money into something else. And that's my concern is if I could, let's say, take $500,000 and buy a cottage versus taking $500,000 and buying a $2 million 10-unit building, the $2 million building is a far better investment because it's generating cash flow. It doesn't cost me any more money monthly. It's generating income. It's appreciating with the market. So in the long run, it's much, much better. And if you keep that for 30 years, then your family has $100,000, maybe at that time, $200,000 annual income generated on a regular basis from the property. So for
and
me,
then you'll buy the cottage.
Well, for me, it's at some point, you do say, okay, well, now I've established.
For those of you listening, because there's a lot of people in our group of clients and our network and people that we talk to on a regular basis. It's a conversation that comes up a lot in buying a cottage, buying a home with a pool, blah, 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 blah. You look at your brother and your sister-in-law. They've now got a couple of cottages. One they sold, the other one they rent, and it's an income property. So they're actually making money on it every year. Plus,
and if somebody wants to do that, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in Airbnb stuff.
Anyway, I was just wondering where you're at with that, and if I'm going to get a cottage, if I'm going to have you as a cottage buddy anytime soon, because
twice a year for a week at a time, yes.
And it's usually
it was nice when I took the boat over to your dock last time and sat down, had a beer on the dock.
Yes, you didn't stay for the Spaducci though. I was disappointed you didn't stay for some Spaducci.
We'll do Spaducci at some point this year
because I know you love lamb, and it's one of my favorite things to grill up. Anyways, nice seeing you. Have a great week, and for those of you that have any feedback or comments on future episodes, please leave it in the comments below. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. KT Confidential, the real estate podcast. We will see you next week.
Ciao.
Bye.